bring these folks on. And guys, I'll let you, and gals, I'll let you introduce yourselves and tell us what you're going to educate us about here today. Go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Frank Vaughn, and Convention of States Action. We're a grassroots movement in all 50 states looking to use Article 5 of the Constitution to rein in the federal government. And we have 3 subject areas that we would like to look at. Term limits on federal officials. They shouldn't be in a federal office for 30, 40 years. It's crazy. And second, we want to impose fiscal restraints. It's a balanced budget amendment. We are currently $34 trillion in debt. Our interest on the debt is a fourth largest line item in the federal budget, right behind the Department of Defense. So, and most importantly, I think the third one is reduce scope and power of the federal government. Right now, the federal government has encroached in all of our lives at all levels, and we need to get that corrected.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes, I'm Bill Rutledge, and thanks for being out there, audience, to listen to us today. The thing is, we've got to a place here in our country where we, the people, have to get involved. And part of that being involved is that you have to become aware of how the system works. And the fact that the Convention of States program, which was developed 10 years ago and has been going on, as Frank mentioned, here in the state of Colorado, we have our own organization, volunteers. We have a number of people that are doing different things. Frank Vaughn and I are both part of a veterans group, and Laura is on the line today too. Niemeister is our director for the state. Laura, you want to say hi?
Yeah, hey, this is Laura Niemeister. I am, as Bill said, the Colorado State Director with Convention of States. And we do have a problem, and yes, you are right. It is educating people don't even have the civics mind to know their rights are being abused. So our goal, yes, is the resolution, but it also is to build the largest and most engaged group of self-governing citizen activists the nation has ever seen.
Well, welcome, Laura. Appreciate you coming on the show today.
So the Article 5 process, it starts in the state legislature, and a resolution rolls through the process of going through a committee, and then it has to get voted out of committee. And once it gets voted out of committee, what happens is it goes to a floor vote. Now, this floor vote has to happen in both the state, or I'm sorry, the Senate and in the House. And once that actually happens, then the legislature makes an application to Congress. Okay? And Congress has a ministerial role to play where they aggregate the applications, verifying the same subject matter. And that's critical because as the Constitution states, when 2/3 of the states, 34 states, come together with the same subject matter, Congress will then make what's called a call. And that call is basically, it sets the time and place of the first convention. And then so what happens, once they make the call, then the states select their commissioners. And that's a process that's done at the state legislature. And when they select their commissioners, they will also provide those commissioners with a commission, which is basically the instruction set of how the state legislature wants them to operate in the convention. And so once that happens, the convention will convene, and then we'll kick off that process.
Currently,
can I add?
Go ahead, Laura.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that in order to get the convention called, we do need 34 states to pass this resolution to get it called.
Yep, and right now we're at 19 states that have made application to Congress, and we need 15 more.
Well, you just had 20 some odd of the state governors pledge their help to Texas, and that, as soon as I saw that, that was the first thing I thought of was convention of states. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah, our movement is really starting to get momentum. People are waking up to the craziness that's in our federal government right now. We talked about when 2/3 of the states, 34 states, come together to make an application for a convention of states. What happens at that point is Congress will make the call, and we will have a convention, and that convention is a proposal for amendments. And what happens is they'll elect a president, vice president. They'll set the rules, either Mason or Roberts rules. It's basically a parliamentarian procedure that they'll go through. They'll break down into committees and subcommittees if necessary, and they'll get to crafting proposed amendments. And the thing is, it's all about education. If we can educate people, this process is not scary whatsoever. It's very well laid out. We've never had a convention of states, Article 5 convention of states, but we have had many state conventions, and we absolutely know how those things run and operate.
And we've also, there's this past August, they had a run-through, a practice run-through, if you will, of holding a convention in Virginia, where they brought in representatives from, I'm thinking, 48, 49, almost all of the states, and these were actual representatives. And,
really?
And they began this process. They wanted to get a feel for it, how it went, based on the Roberts Rule of Orders and others. And it turned out to be quite interesting. This video can be watched on the Convention of States website. They have put this on. And so for folks that might be interested in witnessing how it went, please go to the conventionofstates.com and do some research through there and find that video. And there's other videos. They also show various varieties of different people that we know of in the political process who have supported Convention of States. Matter of fact, just recently, the Heritage Foundation president, Kevin Roberts, endorsed the Convention of States, and basically on the title of his article is To Reign in Federal Government.
So conventionofstates.com.
Correct.
The folks can go to that and learn a lot more and actually watch that video of how that went. And where did you say they did that again?
That was in Virginia. I think it's Alexandria. Williamsburg, Virginia.
Good place for it.
What they can also do there at conventionofstates.com is sign the petition. Their names, a letter gets sent to their state representatives, their state senator, and their state representative, telling them that they want for Colorado to call for a convention of states. They want to be one of the 34 states. So we are looking for petition signers always to get in there and let your legislators know that you believe in this and you want to get it done.
You know, guys, I got to ask you, because what I always hear is, I'll hear people talking about secession and convention of states and all these different subjects, and it always ends up being a dead subject because nobody really understands it or how it works, and everybody's of the opinion that, oh, well, we can't do that. That's, that's fiction. That's not going to happen. So I was hoping maybe you guys could give us the bullet points of steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, of exactly, yes, we can do it, and exactly how that would happen.
So the first part is education, right? And we focus on education all the time, because if you're educated, if the electorate is educated, this is not a scary proposition whatsoever. You'll hear folks talk about a runaway convention. Well, that convention cannot run away because it is a proposal amendment. It's not, all it's doing is proposing. They cannot ratify whatsoever. They just propose amendments. And then what happens is once those amendments are proposed, then Congress sets the ratification process, whether it's the state legislatures that ratify or whether it's a state convention that ratifies. So everything is laid out, constitutional law and historical precedents. Once people notice and realize this, it is absolutely not scary whatsoever.
I just wanted to also mention it takes 38 states to ratify the amendment for it actually to become part of the Constitution. So it is a very high bar that this has got to pass.
Yeah. So it takes 38 of these conventions, these state conventions, before it can even go to Congress.
Oh, no, 34.
Well, okay, that's what I thought, but she just said 38.
Yeah, well, that's the ratification process. So 34 states make application to Congress, and then Congress verifies scope, right, of it, and then what happens is once they meet and they have some proposals, those proposals get voted out of the convention. One state, one vote. It's a simple majority. Then what happens is those proposals go to Congress. Congress then determines the ratification process. And then what happens is in the ratification process, 38 states, 3/4, have to ratify that proposal before it becomes law.
I get it.
And here's the interesting thing. It only takes 13 states to kill the amendment. Okay, so any resolutions that come out, or amendments that come out, they have to have broad support. Okay, there's nothing radical that's going to come out of this process because 13 states can kill it immediately.
So there's all kinds of fail-safes built in by our brilliant founders, and you hear, the leftist media and a lot of the other media too, the mainstream. They try to make it sound like, oh my God, this is just radical white nationalism and all this other stuff, but it's not at all.
Absolutely not.
No, and the thing is that I think many people have forgotten about how our founders really set this whole thing up, and the primary powers and actions for the people living in the various states was designed for the states to manage and to have a limited federal overarching type of an umbrella over the states. But as you and I and many people have seen over the years, we have got ourselves to a point where we're shipping a lot of money back to the federal government, and the federal government is developing all these programs and taking various land throughout the states and things of that nature, and they've just gotten more and more and more involved in the governing process, which in turn has restricted the states. And then when you look at how the money flows for projects and things of that nature, you can kind of see how, well, wait a minute, we need to try to control that. So in regards to what we're doing right now in Convention of States, we have those 3 items. And it's like Frank mentioned earlier, term limits. They shouldn't be working in there, and some of them becoming very wealthy. Let's see, let me get the other one here. The fiscal restraints, the balanced budget, for example. Well, here in Colorado, I think we have Tabor and some other aspects. We have some semblance of a balanced budget. We also have term limits on our state representatives. And then the last one is reduce the scope and the overreach, which I was just talking about earlier. I guess the question that we'd ask citizens is, well, if term limits, for example, is good enough for our state representatives, why isn't it good enough for our federal representatives?
Great question. I'm a huge proponent of term limits. Huge proponent.
What Convention of States does is the federal government is never going to give up the power they have accumulated by themselves. It doesn't matter who you vote in there; they are not going to give it up. It really is up to we, the people, to rein in the federal government and put them back into the box that they are meant to be in.
That's a great point, and it is up to we, the people, because actually, we, the people, we're the boss. You know, that's the way it's supposed to be. But that's such a great point. I don't care who you vote into office. They're not going to do anything to lessen their role. You know, I mean, that's up to us.
Yeah, it's all about power, is what it is, and those in power don't want to give up their power. It's interesting, you know, where we have, you know, the state, we have term limits. It's interesting that Congress sought to term limit the presidency. It's interesting that they did a resolution that simply stated that you know, 2 4-year terms for the president. They sent it out to the states for ratification. The states ratified it, and the Congress basically took power away from the presidency. Right? It's interesting though. Why didn't they term limit themselves at that time?
Great point. Yeah. So they don't want Donald Trump to be in office for 20 years or whatever. And you know, good reason. I like term limits, but they won't put it on themselves.
That's absolutely right. Laura's absolutely right. The states must take action.
And they won't also, you know, do a balanced budget. I mean, the whole system is run by the money, and who owns the money and pushes the money, and, you know, you look at the value of our money now, etc. So that breaks in a whole nother bailiwick. But yeah, you got the foxes guarding the hen house, and they're not going to change anything. They got a good setup going. So that comes back to why this organization exists. And it's about awareness. It's about educating, informing the public about what is available and what our founding fathers provided for us in the Article 5, the means in which to take it back if it gets out of control, which it definitely has, because, like Laura said, they're not going to make changes that encroach upon the way of living that they have up there and what they're able to do, and etc. Accountability is the key thing, and unfortunately, a lot of people haven't been held accountable, and etc. There was I have this little thing that Art, our Convention of States vet organizer, put out. It was a little sign. It's by James A. Garfield, the 20th President of the United States. And it says, "Now more than ever, the people are responsible for the character of their Congress. If that body is ignorant, reckless, and corrupt, it is because the people tolerate ignorance, recklessness, and corruption." And that's from James A. Garfield, the 20th President at his time.
We all know what happened to him.
Yep.
So, wow.
So the states have the power to remedy the situation. The founders understood human nature, and they knew at some point in time the federal government would become, in their words, tyrannical. So they gave the states the remedy. The states just have to take action. We need 15 more states to come on board so that we can have a convention of states.
Interesting, fascinating stuff, and our founders did not put this into our Constitution. They did not write these things for no reason. I mean, it's there to be used if it needs to be used, and we need to know about these things. And thank God for people like you guys educating. We'll be right back after the break. We'll bring these guys back for one more segment. Stay tuned. Thank you guys. God bless you for coming on. Hey, we've got about 8 minutes, just to let you know. So maybe you want to tell us how the listeners can learn more, find you, contact you, whether you have classes, etc., etc.
So we have all kinds of educational events that we put on throughout the year. For example, right now, our our veteran coalition is in downtown Denver, educating citizens and collecting petitions for today and tomorrow. So there are all kinds of events that we're at that we can do. But interesting, education. If you're an educated electorate, these things do not scare you. We've mentioned conventionofstates.com, where we have an amazing amount of information, videos that'll walk you through the whole process, dispel all the myths and foolishness that gets spit out there. We are trying to limit the scope and power of some folks, and there's a lot of people that don't want their power taken away from them, so they'll create all these kinds of myths and put a little smoke in the air to make it scary, but it absolutely isn't. I tell you one thing, as far as education, there's a gentleman by the name of Professor Robert Nadelson that he's written several books, but he has one specifically. He's probably the number one individual that is a constitutional scholar on the law of Article 5. That's the name of that book, The Law of Article 5, and it dispels all the stuff. It talks about all the constitutional law, the founding documents. It's just amazing, and they're great resources to learn.
I'd love to read that book. I'm going to have to get a hold of that one for sure. The Law of Article 5 by Robert Nadelson, Professor Robert Nadelson. Yeah, he's something. He knows what he's talking about.
Also, if you visit the conventionofstates.com, there's going to be a little link in there also to the Colorado State page, and the way it's written is /co-colorado-state-page, and it'll bring it right to a page for Colorado, and have different breakouts and like little golden bullets, if you will, that you can click on and go find out more information about Convention of States, what's going on. We have a calendar there that discusses and shows where the different events are going to be and things of that nature. So the real thing really is that for all you listeners out there who are interested in volunteering for something in some capacity, it doesn't matter to the degree, but just interested in getting involved a little bit, that's a great place to start. We all are involved in a variety of different things in our lives and volunteer our times. This is an important part because this is about our governance, and we're seeing where the collapse of our governance and all the different effects that come from that with people that are irresponsible, etc., and don't hold maybe the same values that we, the listeners, you the listeners too, as well as I do, and Frank and Laura, can actually step up and do something. But signing that petition is especially important because it does notify your legislator that you have got a little bit of knowledge on this now, you support what you're seeing, and you would like them to act on it. So I always call it, it's like every time you sign, it kind of rings their bell, and it said, wait a minute, and the more bells that are ringing, the louder the noise, that's the squeakier the wheel is going to get attention and say, well, wait a minute, we can't ignore this anymore. And that's the trial we're coming up here with now, is trying, because of the situation of how our state is balanced between the blue and the red, if you will. We have to work hard at trying to turn some of the ideas and thoughts and positions for those Democratic folks, that we need that support. If we don't get that support from that side, then we're not going to go anywhere. So it's a tough butt, not to try to crack, but we're working on it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be awesome?
Bill's spot on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bill is spot on to go to conventionofstates.com and sign that petition and get involved with us. I mean, it is vitally important. If there's going to be change, it has got to come from we the people. So I encourage everyone to sign the petition, volunteer with us, be involved. One mention, we are going to have a rally on the west steps of the Capitol April 25th. So we invite everybody to come join us then also.
On the steps of the Capitol, April 25th, a nice, peaceful rally. Great, can't wait. I might even have to show up for that.
We'd love to have you.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, the more coverage we can get, again, make it known. And so that it's just not something we can be swept off into the night and no one will notice us. So
You guys talk a lot about education, and I just want to add, other than God, there's nothing more important than that, the education. And these people destroying our country, they of course know that. Adolf Hitler knew that. They all know it. These globalists, these socialists, these communists, they all know it. Why do you think they don't want our kids to go to school? Why do you think that they've taken all these great things out of our schools? So, yeah, education,
Absolutely.
critical.
And that's I call it an A word. It's called awareness. We are, biological beings that are communicating. We're taking it in through our senses, and we're learning that way. And you have to become aware of what's going on around you. And instead of putting your head in the sand and trying to ignore, you need to, just lift up and don't be fearful. Have faith and step out there. And if you trip a little bit, that's okay. Get back up and keep up the fight. But if you don't have awareness, then you can't ever come up with a plan to take action. Another A word.
Yeah, the citizens of Colorado need to engage in this process so that we can tell the folks in Denver under the Gold Dome that we want an Article 5 Convention of States, because we're tired of the federal government acting in the manner in which it is, and our children are going to be in debt, and it's just terrible. McConnell, Schumer, they're uniparty. They're cut from the same cloth.
Oh, no doubt.
And if you're there for 30, 40 years, you just get sucked into that foolishness. And that's why we need this three-pronged approach to reining in the federal government.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me how many more Americans are starting to figure these things out, way more than at any other time previous to now.
Well, and unfortunately, sometimes you have to experience the pain and whatnot. And there's another word that I like to use when I'm having conversation. It's called apathy. We didn't just get here overnight here. This has been building for years and years and years.
So great points. Guys, thank you for coming on. I promise you I will bring you back on. God bless you. So it's conventionofstates.com. Thank you. We'll have you back soon.